it's quite often where we as leaders deliver feedback in a way that isn't received well. And it's not necessarily that we're doing it terribly. It's not necessarily that the person there's something inherently wrong with the person. Often it's a combination of those factors, where either the person's a little sensitive and we haven't delivered it as well as we could have. And this is perfectly natural. I mean, Gallup has a ton of research on this. If I remember correctly, only, I think it's like 1 out of 4 employees or 1 out of 5 around the world feel that the feedback that they receive is helpful. Most people feel like it's judgment. And so one thing that can really help is just the framing. And this is why, maybe kind of coming back to Paul's question, a lot of leadership development approaches, they're kind of a la carte, right? Like, hey, we're going to work on some listening skills. We're going to work on emotional intelligence. We're going to work on performance management, whatever the a la carte thing is. Our approach is a little bit different. We're talking about a fundamental shift as leaders. And that shift is moving from seeing ourselves as the person in charge, the person who's the boss, to serving as a coach who consistently brings out the best in our team members. And this is not only a more effective way to lead, it's way more fulfilling, right? I mean, as we mentioned a moment ago, if you go home every day knowing that you've helped somebody grow, you've helped them to thrive just a little bit better than they did the day before, that's inherently fulfilling. It makes going to work meaningful. So we're making this move from boss to coach. And the more that we have that mentality, this is why, and you might remember in the intro video that you watched, I think it's as simple as it might sound, that habit of reminding yourself every day that your true job as a leader is not all the things on your to-do list. It's not what's in your formal job description. Those are all important and necessary duties. But your primary job, if you're a leader of people, is simple. It's to inspire greatness in your team. It is to bring out the best in your team members. And you do that by serving as a coach who helps people to thrive. We're consistently meeting the needs that people have for thriving in the workplace. And the reason I think it's so important to continually remind ourselves of that is that it gradually changes how we approach different situations. Here's a perfect example, the situation of feedback. So if we're coming at feedback from the perspective of, I am a coach who wants to bring out the best in you, not I'm judging you because I don't think you did something well, that's a huge difference in how the person feels when they're interacting with us. So it can help to frame a conversation in that way, to say, hey, I have some feedback for you. In fact, for any of you who have read Daniel Coyle's book, The Culture Code, that's a fantastic book, but he cited some research that was done by some Ivy League researchers in leaders in education. And they found this phrase that was so impactful. They called it magical feedback, I think is what they call it. But before giving any feedback, they would say, I have some feedback for you, and I'm giving it to you because I have very high expectations of you, and I believe you can meet them. And I think it's 18 words that I just said, if I remember right, the magical feedback, just prefacing feedback with that dramatically improved the outcomes of people's willingness to receive the feedback and then act on it. Now, of course, this is another reason why it's so important to consistently remind yourself that your true job is to serve as a coach who brings out the best in your team. Because if we're not living that, and we could say the words, someone might not feel that it's very authentic. But if we're living it consistently, if all of our actions display this value that we have, this understanding, this wisdom that our true job as a leader is to bring out the best in our team, to inspire greatness, then people believe that when we have a feedback conversation and we start it with, it doesn't have to be those exact words, but something like, hey, I wanted to chat with you about the project that we just did or the meeting that we just had. And the reason we're having this conversation is I expect great things from you. I know you're a great team member, and I want to help you to continue to grow and achieve your goals. So with that framing, then I've kind of already touched on a couple specific points that can be very helpful. So one is, again, if you understand the goals that somebody has in their own personal development, then we can tie any feedback into helping them reach those goals. And then we're truly serving as a coach, right? That's what, I mean, there's people that hire life coaches these days. It's a booming industry because we all need that kind of third person objective feedback, letting us know, like, where are we off track? You know, what are we doing well? Where can we continue to grow? So in addition to, you know, kind of this preface and understanding before we go in that we understand their goals and the feedback is intended to help them reach their goals as well as ours, to help them grow, then I always like to start off, again, a coach isn't just telling people stuff, right? A coach is asking them, helping them develop self-awareness. So, you know, I would start off a conversation with, like, how do you think that went? And just see what they say. So if a person's very talkative, they might tell you all types of things that went well, things that could have gone better, particularly if they're talkative and have high level of self-awareness. If they don't, you can ask, what do you think went really well? And if you agree, you can, you know, start off with that. I agree. This area went really well, and I really appreciate the fact that you did this, that, and the other thing. And then you could ask them, you know, what areas do you think could have gone better? And let them tell you. And in most cases, if you really ask, especially, let's say they don't come up with something immediately, you could say, oh, well, how do you think this part of it went? The part that you don't think went well. And they say, oh yeah, that part, I could have maybe done that a little better. Okay, tell me more. What do you think you could have done better? How do you think you would do it differently in the future? Now what's happening is the person's developing a very important skill of self-awareness, and you're coaching them through it, but also you're not telling them what they did that wasn't satisfactory or where they need to grow. They're telling you. And so that really strengthens now the words that you said at the beginning, like, hey, I want to serve as a coach who helps you be the best that you can be and reach your goals. That comes to life, where you're not just telling them all the things that they didn't do correctly that you want to see done better. They're telling you. So those are the main points that I would offer to start framing coaching framing feedback as coaching, and then actually serve as a coach by do as little talking as you can and asking the most questions that you can to draw out, help that person learn for themselves how to have the self-awareness to go back and analyze the situation and see where they have room to grow.